here. All right. Hey guys, it's Joette with BalloonCoach.com, and as we record this Zoom Live, it is March 8th, 2023, and tonight we have the pleasure of having guest speaker Nicole Larson of Let Nicole help. Many of you have already heard about her through our friend Sarah Meyer with the Bright Balloon podcast. She is that magic person behind Sarah that helps out with her 17 Hats programming. And I'm ecstatic that for the first time, Let Nicole Help is a sponsor for Balloon Boss Summit 2023. And so she will actually be in person in Orlando in November to help our delegates take the next step in their communication with their clients. Last year, Sarah was inundated with a ton of tech questions, and she's like, yeah, to be honest, I don't know that because that's what Nicole does. And so they had some great conversations, and I'm so glad that Nicole will be coming this year. So for those of you who've not been to Balloon Boss Summit, what's really cool about our event, it's only for 100 delegates. It is 30 instructors. And what's really cool is my team is not just balloon professionals, but they're people like Nicole who help us with our business and to take those steps. And so rather than just saying, oh, someday I'm going to work on it, you can actually pull out your laptop, work at a table next to somebody who knows what they're doing and get things done while you're with us in Orlando so that you leave with systems in place to be more efficient. But what we want to do is go ahead and get you started now and help you become more efficient with your time and your communication. So without further ado, I want to say thank you, Nicole, for helping us take the first step in being efficient with our client communication. And she's got a worksheet to help you figure out what questions to ask when. And I will retype that into the chat. And for those of you watching this as a replay, stop now with the replay, go to the notes section and download those notes so that you can follow along as you go through this training. So Nicole, thank you so much for being here. And please tell us a little bit about yourself before you jump into the material.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joette. I'm so excited to come to Summit. I already felt like I was missing out last year when I knew everyone was there. So I'm really excited to join you all there. Yeah, so I guess a little bit about myself is I do know Sarah like personally in real life. We're like real life friends, and formerly used to work together, I guess I should say now, at our full-time jobs. And yeah, so I knew she was running her balloon business and on the side of our work together. And she had just mentioned to me, you know, I had been kind of mentioned to her, I was looking to start a business of my own. And she's like, well, you seem like you might be okay at like systems. And so sure enough, I got inside her 17 hats and just kind of had some ideas that she liked. And then that's how she shared me with you all so graciously. So I thank her for that. And since then I've gotten to help like dozens of other balloon business owners, and it's been such a treat. So yeah, thank you for having me. So what I wanted to share tonight, I guess, if that answers the intro question, is I call it a project details worksheet. And it's kind of what I started to use when I was helping some of my clients with their setup in terms of what questions do we need to ask, like on our lead capture forms, on our questionnaires, and our email templates, et cetera. And I kind of like consider it maybe a cornerstone of the course I then later developed. But what's cool about the worksheet is that even if you're not a 17 Hats user, as many of you know me from, you can use it for any other platform that you might use, or even with no CRM, just to kind of get yourself organized in terms of what you want to, you know, have your clients tell you right away when they contact you, what information do you need to know, and what information you need to know down the line. So that's kind of how I've developed that sheet, kind of column by column. And I don't even know, am I able to screen share here? What? Okay. I thought I would do that.
Yeah, so right underneath our pictures, you should see the green share screen button.
Yeah, I'm looking for the correct window of mine I have.
I know how that goes.
I'm terrible at having all kinds of windows open. Is my screen sharing?
I do see the worksheet now.
Okay, So I have, and I apologize, I'm going to be looking over at my other monitor. So the front tab, I kind of just added some directions in there for some kind of tips on how we're going to actually use this sheet. So this is not where we'll be inputting our information, but the second tab will be that. So in the first column here is like detail. What detail do you need to know? Over the course of a job, you need to know a lot. And depending on the different parts of your business and how many different things you offer, you need to know a various amount of things, right? So detail includes everything from who, what, when, where kind of details to colors, to, you know, who's the guest of honor, to what are you celebrating, all those types of things. So those are some of the things that we would fill out in the detail column on the next tab. And then we'll go from left to right in the worksheet. And in the second column is where you would mark, is this something that you need to know right away at inquiry, like on your lead capture form or whatever form you have on your website or LinkedIn or excuse me, Linktree or whatever. Is this something that you need to know right away when you're contacted? Because if without that detail, you don't really know if you're available for the job. So things that I would always suggest having on your inquiry form are at minimum the who, what, when, where. And then I always like to ask how folks heard about you, because I think that's such valuable information for your marketing to know, you know, are people seeing you on Instagram? Are they finding you through an internet search, etc.? So those are like what I would call the most necessary questions to have on your lead capture form. And then in the third column, column C, is this something that you need to know? Is it a required question? So most of them I would actually mark as required. Some people also ask for a company name along with the customer name. But of course, not everyone's going to be representing a company who contacts you. So maybe that's an example of a question that does not need to be required. So that would be kind of column C. And then column D are some of those details such as, you know, perhaps like billing address versus an event address, or, you know, things like customization on the balloons, like vinyl customization and everything. Is that something maybe you don't need to know right away when they contact you, but you need to get that information from them at some point during your work together? So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions. Now that I'm sharing, I lost my chat option. So
right now I'm not seeing any, but it takes just a second sometimes for people to process. So guys,
yeah,
are you confused? Are you totally with us? Like, give me a thumbs up or a yes, or if you have a question, you can open up your mic real quick, or you can type it into the chat. Laurel's with us. So far, so good.
All right. Oh, there we go. I found my chat again.
There we go.
Yeah, so I would take a few minutes to kind of think through your basic process that you have with every customer. Lay out all those details that you can think of, and then figure out, you know, what you need to know at minimum to know whether you can even move forward with this request. And then, so we've kind of talked through column D, I guess, and whether that information can be collected later after your lead capture form or your initial form. And if it is later, then in column E, there's actually a drop down. I think I'm still sharing my screen. So of some other common ways that you would be able to ask questions of your customers. Maybe it's going to be through an email. Maybe you're going to send a questionnaire because you have a set of questions that you need to still ask this person about their request. Maybe you're going to have a conversation on the phone or over Zoom or whatever. And what I like to recommend here is, like, if it's any more than like 3 questions that you know you're going to have to ask your customer after they've filled out your form, I would like to suggest either sending a questionnaire or another type of form that they can fill out, because otherwise, with more than like 3 emails, you know how easily those questions will be missed by your customer, and then you're just going to send the same question again. So that would be kind of like my, I guess, line that I would draw in terms of email versus going ahead and developing another questionnaire or form to send to your customer. And so
just to
Mhm.
clarify, what do you think is the best recipe?
I would say like anything more than like 3 questions. If it's 3 questions or less, maybe an email template that is ready to send to them with those questions might suffice. But if it gets to be anything more than that, I think your chances of getting all the answers you need are gonna drop, Yeah, so I would probably consider another form if you're not using a CRM, or if your CRM has a questionnaire, to add in one of those in your process if you need more than 3 pieces of information.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and so then column F, you can see I've added a drop down here for some of the common types of questions that you would ask on your lead capture form or your questionnaire. So now this relates back to the details that you've decided you need to know at inquiry. What kind of question are you asking of them? So like if you're asking what day is your event, you would add that as a date question, things like that. And I always like to say with that, how did you hear about us? I always like to add that as a drop down so that they can only select one thing, and that's going to keep your data really consistent in terms of that particular question. So that whole column would be kind of how you would identify what type of question you're asking to get that detail. And then the last 2 columns would be more for folks who have a CRM, 17 hats or otherwise. And so this is indicating like, what is this answer that they give me? Is it going to map to a token that I am going to use in my email templates, in my product description, on my quote, things like that? And if it is something I'm mapping towards, do I need to make a custom field for it? And that's getting really advanced, right? But some of the custom fields that I like to create for the customers I work with are like a colors custom field, because then I can pull that right into their product description, and it displays beautifully their customer's quote for them and really kind of personalizes the quote. Another custom field might be, setup time, things like that. So those again are going to be more for folks who have the CRM and are using tokens and things in their templates. But so that is kind of the instructions of how you're going to use it, and then using the second tab to actually fill in your data. So I would again start from left to right, thinking of all the detail you can think of, and I'm happy to sit here and while folks kind of lay out their detail in their own worksheet, and we can kind of talk through where to check boxes and everything, wherever folks want to go from here, or if there's questions. But that's kind of like how I've laid out this worksheet.
So what I hear you saying is everybody can look at what's that system that they're needing to put in place for their communication, and they can actually fill this out. And then as they're doing that, then ask you questions about, ooh, I think this is messed up, or does this make sense?
Yeah. Yep. The copy that you made is your copy to keep in your own. It's, I'm not seeing anything that you make in your copy. So if you do have any other questions, I see one has come up. Yeah, I'm happy to like kind of chat through where to mark things and how to think through this. So
cool. So Travis, do you want to go ahead and open up your mic and say your question or comment?
Hello.
Hey.
We've talked a lot before about this already, but do you think it would be more beneficial to just keep that like initial form like short, like just who, what, where, and when, and why, because I have a lot of customers say like either they don't want to fill it out or like they'll do it later. Do you think it'd be beneficial to have it short where they actually get onboarded into the system, and then after that another form comes to them via email or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm leaning more and more that way. But I am also gonna kind of say it depends, which is, I know, a really annoying answer. But here's why, is because like people have different let me see, like interest levels, I guess, in posting their prices to their website and, things like that. So I think you kind of think about what's available on your website as well, what they may have seen already. And if you're giving them a good amount of information already on your website, that by the time they get to your form, they're pretty qualified, they're pretty interested. So you might be able to get away with a few more questions. Whereas if you don't really, feel comfortable sharing your pricing or have a guidebook or, for a pricing guide, maybe you're going to go more of the route of taking less questions on your form just so that you can get people to contact you.
Yeah. And so, Travis, we've had a lot of speakers on this in the past. And so it's like the devil's advocate thing, right? Like, I'll give an example, like Balloons by Tommy. They did a training with us like 5-6 years ago, they were like, listen, I don't have time to go back and forth. So like, you either going to fill out the form and give me all the information up front, or you're not my client. Like, that was just it, because they didn't want to have to go back and forth. That just didn't fit them. And I think today pretty much their form is still extensive. But then when I was starting to talk to some of the SEO experts and people who are looking at, in today's world, people's attention span is like nil. So if you're able to go, what's your name, what's your cell phone, what's your email, and what's the date and location of your event, like that's sometimes like all you're going to be able to get out of them. Or sometimes it might just be name, phone number, email address. That might be all that you can get out of them. And again, like Nicole said, it's kind of like depending on what part of the process they're in. Have they been able to see some of your prices and stuff like that, so that it's easy for them just to go, yeah, I want A, B, and C. But yeah, some people are going to prefer that 3. And so what we had done back when I was working at the office for Party People events is within the CRM, it asks those 3 top questions. It comes in the system, and then another email comes out and it says, hey, we look forward to working with you. What's the date? What's the event venue? What's your theme? What's your colors? And then like, hey, to get you that quote, we just need these last pieces of information, and then our team will be with you with those details. And so with that, it was a 3-tiered system that we did.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, because if we did break it up into 2 separate emails, we would still need to know somewhat of what their colors are going to be before quoting, because if they want like metallics or something. But so yeah, it might just be, I don't know, beneficial to keep it shorter in a sense, but still get most of the information up front.
And then Leah's question was saying, what do you consider to be short versus long as far as the number of questions to ask?
Yeah. And, I was also going to mention, I feel like perhaps there's like this little bit of the longer you've been in business, the more questions you can get away with. So I feel like there's a little bit of that in there as well, in terms of length of the form versus the question that you would ask later. But so like, if I think about all of the questions that I feel best putting on my clients' inquiry forms, I'm just going to look at my list here. I ask name and email, which are default to 17 hats. So like, but of course you need that. Company name, because, we're working with some companies. Their phone number, some people like to get that and some do not feel as that's as necessary. What are you celebrating? When is your event? What time does it start? What is the venue name? What is the event address? How did you hear about us? And then I have a secondary question of like, if they marked referral, who can we thank? So if they mark referral in that, how did you hear about us? And then anything else we should know? as kind of like a catch-all optional question for the customer. So that turns out to be 12 questions that I like to kind of have a standard in that list that I just went through. And I feel like that really gets a lot of good, like, can I even do this job? Am I even available to make this happen? You know, it covers that, and it kind of gives you enough information to work with in your reply to still personalize the kind of the communication to them. I'm so excited to help you celebrate your son's birthday. You know, by having that information, you can still add in some personalization as well. I think I see another question coming, so I will wait. Okay, maybe not.
So can somebody post share their screen and put up their intake form to get your feedback?
Yeah. I think I'll
It was a message directed to me, that's why.
Gotcha. I'm gonna stop sharing of mine because I imagine I need to do.
Perfect. So yeah, so Leah, go right ahead and you can go on and click share your screen.
So should I share my screen or should I just put my link in here? Or what would be best?
Either way, if with the noise in the background, if you want to just share your screen, then I mean,
Yeah,
if you want to put the link in, then I'll put it on mine. All right, and guys, if you have other questions for Nicole, feel free to just open up your mic and ask. And I'm gonna grab that link and share my screen. Are you able to see that okay, Nicole?
Yep.
All right, cool. So this is on Leah's website: name, email address, phone number, date of event, services you're interested in, and then it has a drop down.
Mm-hmm.
And then a message which is optional, location and city, start time, end time, and she's putting the word optional next to these.
Mm-hmm.
Indoor, outdoor, occasion, theme, colors, budget. How do you prefer to be contacted? And that's a drop down. And then how did you hear about us?
Yeah, okay. I will just again go back to the how did you hear about us. I might consider switching that to a drop down. Just first as a rent, but in terms of like the number of questions, I like these. I might can we pull down the services one?
Sure.
The drop down there.
Yeah, just a second, sorry.
Back up.
I told
the
you
big
guys
one.
it was late tonight. All right, services.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, and I like having the I'm not sure, because a lot of people just really aren't, right? Like I've had to learn a lot along the way working with you all to know what is what. So I think that's a good option to have that on there. I might consider actually changing that one and actually flipping it to make those check boxes instead, because it's possible that they want more than one. And my mind is kind of racing here, and this might get a little much, but like the grab and go garlands, you could actually send that off into its own little workflow, because that's pretty easy and contained if you're not going to use online scheduling. But by using a drop down, you would only be able to do that through a drop down. I guess I should add that in, send it off to its own workflow.
So if it's on a drop down and then they click on grab and go garlands, then that could go off to a separate workflow. Is that correct?
Yeah. Upon hitting submit, it would. So I've just contradicted myself. I hear that now. So maybe that I guess is why I do like to use the online scheduling for the grab and goes. because then it kind of takes itself out of the form, and it can kind of just be its own thing, which that service kind of is. But otherwise, I would consider making those checkboxes instead, because it's quite possible they might want more. And of course, you'd like to suggest to them that they could have all of it, right? And then I would say maybe moving that message part down, because they might want to dump in a bunch of information in that message that you're later asking for, and then they won't move it into the fields that you actually want it in.
You'll put the message part at the end.
That. Yeah.
Great tips.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think I was looking, I think I'm in the middle tier right now. And so I am looking to do the online scheduling. So it's just, it's in the horizon.
Yeah, sure.
And then a question came up in the chat, which is on the online scheduling, can they pay automatically?
If we're talking about 17 hats, yes, with level 3, like with the most advanced, yes. And it's lovely. Yeah. I can't speak to the other CRMs. I see there are a couple of people here who are using other things. So I can't really speak to that, but 17 hats with the highest level, yes.
Cool.
Yes.
And would you mind looking at one more of the forms?
I'd love to. Yeah.
All right. So Christine, if you want to go ahead and either put the link into the chat for me or to share your screen, whichever you prefer. All right, here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What CRM do you use?
I'm using 17 hats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your interest in booking with Party Clip Party Creations. We are excited to be a part of your upcoming event. Name, email, phone, event, location, date, and then it's the check boxes.
Nice. Okay. Okay, so we have some other services more than balloons. I'm thinking here when I'm seeing the event name and the what are you celebrating, as a consumer or a customer, I might feel like that's the same if I'm just giving my initial bit of feedback here. Where will your event be held? And so I'm guessing that is perhaps like a venue or a residence drop down. Indoors, outdoors. Okay. That is a great question that I've learned is a very important one for the balloon world.
Yes.
I've learned so many things. Colors being linked to the inspiration. Okay. Yeah. I think this is a pretty solid form too. With the link to the inspiration photo, I don't know how lucky you are with getting a lot of those. I hope so. If you're not having any luck getting those links to the inspiration photos, you might consider in your auto reply or in like the message that pops up after they fill out their form, send us your photos right away. And then hopefully they do, and you can start to see what they're envisioning. If not, know that in a questionnaire of 17 hats, you can have them upload those photos there. So they cannot upload to a form, but they can to a questionnaire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My other question is further up when it offers like face painting or glitter tattoos, I would like to know if they'd want more than one person. Like if I have a team, possible team, would they want to have more people come out for the services? Is that possible as a drop down, or like if they click glitter tattoos, can it open up somewhere else and say how many would you like? Is that possible?
Yeah, unfortunately not in a form. It's branching like that is available in the questionnaire. So, but I know that's kind of probably a big piece of how you know whether you're available, right? So, Joette, would you mind scrolling back up just to
Sure.
Look at that question again?
Yeah, let me get control of my mouse. There we go.
Yeah, I see. And okay, so right now it's the check boxes. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't really have some follow-up or branching questions from a form. But I would also maybe recommend or kind of note that as a customer, I would have no idea how many face painters might be needed to cover my party of 30 people.
Sure.
You know, I wouldn't necessarily know what's realistic without having worked with you guys now for a while, but as the average customer, I'm thinking wouldn't even know.
So,
if
and
that's
that,
answering the question.
right. So I'm just checking, within the form, do you ask how many people are going to be at the event?
I don't, no.
So I'm just thinking that would be another way, and I just don't know how to put it in quite right. But just like if you're doing face painting or the tattoos, where it is going to be depend, you know, like if this is for a festival and there's 1,000 people coming, obviously one person's probably not going to cut what they want. So that would be where I would just wonder if there's another way to have a caveat there.
Right, that makes sense. I can sort of workshop that on my end and
Mhm.
figure it out. But
And
thank you so much. Like I've taken, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to recommend and say I just finished up with a client who also offers a lot of these things. And what we ended up doing was I'm kind of leaving, we left that as a checkbox, almost just like you have it. And then having a questionnaire ready to go that was kind of more specific to the service that they select. Because the balloon decor, you don't need, like, you go set it up and then you kind of generally leave, right? Face painting is not that same way. So you ask different questions about how many attendees and things. So we took that information on the form right away, but then had a different questionnaire that could have that branching that would follow up in the workflow.
So then when somebody check boxes that they want Facebook, then a different thing is sent to them that gives that other detailed information for the client to give at that time.
Yeah, the more specific questions to that face painting. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have time to do one more form?
Yeah, this is fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, go ahead. Do you have a link to the form or do you want to share your screen? All right. Magic. All right, just a second. I gotta scroll over on this other side. Okay. Are you able to read okay? This one's a little bit smaller. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, okay. So I assume the indoor, outdoor, and even the different types of indoor. Yeah, I've noticed that in different locales, depending on, you know, what size your city is and everything for parking, some of that is really crucial to know. So good question. Okay. I'm just reading over the budget options
Yep.
here. Mm-hmm. I like that it kind of explains what's appropriate and what would land in those ranges that you've listed, because people that, you know, they just don't know. I like that. Here, I'm leaning towards in the what are you inquiring about? I would probably leave like the garlands and the props, and maybe things about like installation and tear down. I would probably lean towards having that a little bit later in the process,
Because a lot of
Just
people
because
don't even know it's necessary. Like they
they
don't know that there's hardware that comes along with the balloons that you would need to be taken down. So they're not going to request that because they don't even know that's a thing that they would need.
Yeah. Yes, I think exactly. And, I think where we can kind of trim the initial form is good. And I think if they're, depending on what the core items that they tell you that they want, you then know what kind of frames are going to be involved. And if you do need to come back, and if that's not even part of the conversation, you don't even have to ask that question later. Yeah, and I'm thinking here that the questions specific to for pickups and for setups, it's such great questions. I would probably even, because it sounds like you do a lot of pickups, I might even make a separate form for that, because I think people do know whether they think they can come pick it up for you, or if that they're looking for install. I think they probably know that. So you could probably even duplicate a lot of this form for a pickup and then kind of trim it to make more pickup relevant questions.
Cool. Jennifer, feel free to open up your mic if you have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
I'm just, okay, thank you so much.
Good. Yeah.
All right. And so a question I see in the chat is, I have been using Google Forms. Ultimately, should I look to start transitioning to one of these platforms like 17 Hats? Yes.
Yeah, I think if you think back to like the worksheet that we were kind of looking at before, those last couple of columns, they were designed kind of more for the CRM folks. But through use of those tokens, you're going to be able to probably send off your email templates even faster. Like you can have email templates in just your Gmail. That's very possible. And forms can do a lot. And there's actually a pretty cool tool called Boomerang that can do a lot for scheduling that I probably want to share with people eventually once I can. But when you can have some of this information that they're giving you automatically mapped to some tokens in your CRM, it's kind of a game changer in terms of like the customer service and being able to kind of spit out the emails faster on your end as well. So I am without a doubt proponent for CRMs. I would suggest,
Yeah,
if you can. Yes.
Yeah, I started in the industry in 2003. We didn't have any of these bells and whistles. And so like I had a file cabinet and I had printed invoices and I had file folders, and it was, everybody went into when the event was going to happen. And then after it was done, then it went into the college, or the corporate person's name or the person's name. And so I had files, and I bought an existing company and it came with a legal huge file cabinet, and people would call me up and like, this is Mrs. Jones, you did our daughter's wedding 5 years ago and we want you to do the other daughter's wedding. So I would go look up Mrs. Jones and I'd pull out and find out what they did,
Yeah.
And wow, how amazing would it have been to have it all computerized, that I could have just gone to my CRM on my phone and looked it up,
Yeah.
So I'm just, I do understand that there's always a cost, there's always a learning curve, there's time that goes into CRMs. But what I have been seeing is the people that I've been working with since 2015 as Balloon Coach, the people who have the CRMs early on just have that extra step of their time not being wasted, and the back and forth communication, and the fact that you can find everything from that client. So it's not oh my gosh, what did I do for Mrs. Jones? Because you can go and pull it up and see what you did from her in the past. And then if she says, just do it again, you can do it again. So that's the thing that I just like about these CRMs, is you're able to have that flow of communication go to one location.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was going to add, maybe like, I'm feeling like maybe there might be a lot of like Instagram messaging back and forth between, client, customer and company, and it's getting done. That's great. But the scrolling of, in the messages, eventually that's you're going to mix up the messages, and then especially when you start incorporating things like your invoicing might be from PayPal. What if they're using a different email address? Yeah, for all those reasons, I think that a CRM is worth it all the way.
So another question that came up is there
Yeah.
a way to troubleshoot tokens not working properly in emails, i.e. the client name shows instead of an actual name? Like, so the word client name comes up rather than the person's actual name.
Oh, yeah. It could be that if sounds like this might be a 17 hats question. If it is, you'll know you're using a token if the text is like green with a green background. That's when you'll know a token is being used. It could be that perhaps you bought some email template messaging and copy and pasted it in. But it has to, there's like a drop down as you're building your email template. There's a drop down to pull in your tokens where you need them, and they're going to be highlighted with that green. So just by having the words client name typed in, it's not going to know to go get that information for you.
Christine Valentine, do you have a question?
I do. So sorry, I was a few minutes late because I was doing a takedown. So apologize if this was already talked about. So I don't have a CRM currently. Love 17 hats, but I watch it from a distance, and like I see the value in it. It looks really good, but it seems overwhelming. Like, where do you start? Is there like a 17 hats 101 where they like walk you through how to?
Yeah, there are so many. They have like a university, 17 hats university thing they set up. They do several different workshops sporadically. I don't really know the exact schedule of them, but if you're on their website and if you have an account, they actually even have like a quick start guide to kind of walk you through some things. Otherwise, I honestly, I search the help, documents as well. And I think that's a great way to learn. I'm hoping that's answering your question.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Do you have an account? Okay.
I do not have an account yet. I'm just sort of sitting here on the fence, but I reached out to Sarah today knowing you were going to be on here.
Okay.
So she gave me a code, and so I'm like, I think I just have to jump in and give it a whirl.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. If you do, they will have some prompts for you right away on your dashboard to kind of walk you through everything. And I think you get a series of emails that kind of walk you through. Of course, I'm happy to help. So yeah, it's scary. It is a lot. It can be overwhelming, but kind of just try to take it one step at a time and start with your branding, and you can even change your background to make it feel good to even look at the screen. So yeah, one step at a time. But,
awesome. Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
One of our members stated they do have a boot camp. So after you purchase, you're able to go through that too, through the system at 17 hats. And what I'd love to do is, Nicole, so people know the service that you do provide, because one of the things that happens a lot of times with balloon business owners is they buy a new piece of tech and then they start to go into it and they get frustrated. And so one of the things that I've always enjoyed doing is hook people up with other people who can do it for them. So in my case, being BalloonCoach, I do not know tech for making websites. So I had somebody build that website, and then the customer management system I have to use for what I do as a coach is totally different than the systems you guys use. But it cost a ton of money. And when I bought it, I had to go through all these bells and whistles, for them to even say, yes, you can use our system. And then I had a trainer that trained me on it. And every day when we were talking, she could tell that I just didn't know tech. And so her name is Mindy, and she has been with me since the start. And now she's the one that now has built my websites for me, puts in my customer management system, makes changes, because I just don't have that capacity in my head to sit there and spend the time to figure it all out. And so I'd rather just pay her to take care of those things for me rather than me having to figure them out. So Nicole is one of those people that if you're just I would rather just give you my dollars and then let me go sell a couple more columns or arches. She has several different packages. So Nicole, this is a great time for you. If you could just share a couple of things that you do for people and how they can get in touch with you if they do need those services.
Yeah, thanks, Joette. Yeah, I'm happy to offer, like I do a full top to bottom setup for folks. If you would be interested, it's everything from, importing some workflow templates for you to making sure your scheduler is working if you wanted to use that, the branding, all the products and services. My brain does work that way. My brain does not function and put together color palettes and designs like you all. So like different skills, right? So like that's the kind of stuff I enjoy and I love. So I do a full like head to toe setup for folks. We can jump on some calls. I know Travis and I do some calls, and I can kind of just walk you through some things as you share your screen. I'm actually next week, if I knock on wood, I'm re-releasing a course, like a DIY option for that full setup. If that's more your jam, if you kind of learn best by doing, I have that as well. All of those at letnicolehelp.com. So
Yay. So
yeah.
letnicolehelp.com. And like I said, many of you have heard about her through Sarah Meyer with Wisconsin Balloon Decor, also the Bright Balloon podcast. And again, it's one of those things that Sarah's like, I love this system, I work it, but there's certain things that I don't do. And just Nicole takes care of that. And it's like magic. And that's like my Mindy. Like, here, just take care of it, make it work. Tell me where I have to go to send an email. Like, that's all I wanted to do. So I encourage those of you that if you do have tech challenges and you just get frustrated, your time is worth money, right? For all of us. And so sometimes it's just better for us to go out and sell something else and then hire somebody else who has the skill set. And then again, I love that she has the DIY option where she'll give you the training where you can go on and figure it out and then do it yourself, but you have somebody to guide you on what those steps are you should be doing. So that's pretty awesome. So what I want to do real quick, while I give you guys a moment to think, is there another question you have with Nicole before she has to go? You can type it in the chat or open up your mic, but I want to go ahead and get this on the recording real quick for you guys. Is if you're like, man, I would love to hang out with other people and find out how they've set up their systems. And what Nicole does is when you go to BalloonCoach.com and click Join Us at Summit, right now as we record this, we have about 44 seats left of the 100 seats for November 5th through the 9th in Orlando. I encourage people to arrive early and be there on the 4th to have some hands-on learning, or also as we build the balloons for opening on Sunday, but also we have a CBA exam. But as you go through the Balloon Boss Summit website, you can see photos from past events, find out more about it, but also see our 30 amazing instructors. And like I said, Nicole is one of those instructors. We have people from all the different balloon companies being represented, and just a huge diverse group of folks from home base to warehouse to stores, from $50,000 a year in sales to over $1 million a year in sales. So you get to hang out with the people who are just like you, and you get to hang out with the people that you would like to be someday. And that's the magic of Balloon Boss Summit, is just getting to sit side by side with all these amazing people, learning from them, not just about how to make the balloons, but how to put these systems in place. Right now, early bird payment gets you $400 less, so it's $25.97. If you'd like to save $300 off of that, join my mastermind program. So if you have other questions and you're just not sure if this is the right fit with you, or if there's some other questions that you have randomly, on my BalloonCoach.com website, you can go right here to book now to have a 10-minute free call with me to just touch base about stuff. So I want to make sure you know that. And then if you want to get a hold of Nicole, it's Let Nicole Help. And on her website, you can go on and go right here to find out more about her services and be able to touch base with her. All the services and resources are right there for you. All right. So anybody come up with a question that you'd like to ask? All right. So for those of you watching the replay, is there any last minute things you'd like to say, Nicole, before I turn off the recording?
I saw another question come in, so I'll answer it.
Perfect.
is the DIY on the website now? It is. I'm literally going to be updating it, pushing it out Monday. So, and it actually, and the reason I say that is maybe hold off for like a few days because I'm moving it to a new platform as well. So anyone who bought previously will still have their access. If there's anyone out there who previously bought the course, that access will remain, but it is moving to a new platform on Monday. So it is technically still out there, but since we're so close to Monday, I'm going to say wait till Monday. And I got some specials coming and whatnot. So I'll be following up with everyone tomorrow in an email just to check in on the worksheet and everything, and if there are any other questions, but I can share those details as well.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nicole. I greatly appreciate it. For those of you watching it as a replay, again, you can always email joette@ballooncoach.com. I can get you a hold of Nicole or anybody else to help you out with things. And then what we do at the end of any live class that I have is we then turn off the recording and have open chat. And sometimes that is the best learning time. So you're missing out if you weren't on live. So in the future, check out our upcoming trainings, and we hope to see you in Orlando in November for Balloon Boss Summit. Nicole, thank you so much for your help. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.